let me tell you what's troubling. So Dow Jones, S&P, NASDAQ all sort of tepid today. But the number of days that it took the S&P 500 to fall 5% this year is a little troubling to me. It took 23 days. And that could mean a greater chance of a steeper decline in my mind, because typically if we had a fast 5% decline, let's say like a 9 days or less, that ends up being over quickly, and investors sort of acknowledge with a nervous chuckle, well, we overreacted, and this, we're going to get back in. Well, a drawn-out pullback, one that takes, 10 weeks basically
is better.
Or
you
maybe
like it
8,
more?
let me see, maybe 9 weeks. I don't know.
Stretch it out.
It does, it doesn't usually lead to a drop of 10% or more, but it gives investors time to evaluate. And sort of the concerns, and I think that's a little bit of an issue for me, on the emotions of the market. So that's a little bit of what's unnerving about the S&P pullback this year.
That's how emotions work, though. Like as soon as you feel something, go and then you think, oh, I'm so sorry I said that. You just kind of knee jerked.
That's why Gabe Wisdom has taught me many years ago, and he did teach me this about how the pendulum swings too far in one direction, and over exuberance followed by too much fear. And speaking of which, Gabriel Wisdom, American Money Management, as well as the author of Wisdom on Value Investing. Gabe, what do you think about my hypothesis there on the S&P?
Hey, Sully Russ. Well, I think you're right. When you have a violent shakeout, usually it's just a quick correction, or it's nothing more than some news-driven sell-off.
Sure.
And when you have a violent shakeout quickly, it's a sell-off in a bull market. But when it's like Chinese water torture, just a little bit over a long period of time, that is usually a change in trend. And now we've had 5% or more declines on average 3 times per year dating back to 1900. So it's a lot of data. If that's all this is, then expect 2 more of them this year, if it's an average kind of year. But you make a good point, I think.
I sort of think that we're in a little bit of wait and see here. If we go sideways, we did bounce off of the lows, on all 3 indices. But the S&P. In fact, let's take a look at the chart of the S&P real fast. The S&P will tell you probably the tail of the tape here. We've crossed over the 10-day moving average. We're still well below the 50-day moving average. We'll see what happens here over the next. I like to wait and see. There's not a pile of economic data this week. Although we do have retail sales coming out, which I think they're going to blame they'll blame the weather for that at some point. But
no one left the house.
But one interesting thing that comes to mind, Gabe, is the Grim Reaper hits at some point. All of us. The mortality rate in the U.S. is 100% last time I checked, and at some point you got to think about. The fact that Russ and I like to say we got about 20
good summers,
and then 5 really bad ones after that.
Yeah, they push us around in a wheel.
But you got like about 20 good summers left, and then 5 really bad ones. So then we got to plan for that. You hear news of guys like Philip Seymour Hoffman, who had 3 children, of course, a tragic drug overdose, and probably arguably the guy probably had a lot of dough. He was a very popular actor. I'm thinking he probably had 7 figures or so in the bank. At least he should have. But were his ducks in a row? Because if they weren't, half of that went to the state. What are your comments on that?
Well, I looked at this morning, and Philip Seymour Hoffman left approximately $35 million in an estate. Now, he was a very successful actor. We know him more recently from the Hunger Games, and he was a week away from wrapping up scenes in the next Hunger Games sequel, so they've figured that out. Also, Lionsgate said the production calendar there is intact, but there's more money to come to the Hoffman heirs. But who are they?
Well, so let me ask you real quick. So how much again? You said $30 million, something around there? $35 million
at stake, and there's more coming from some other movie interests that he was part of. So his longtime girlfriend, Mimi O'Donnell, is supposedly devastated at the way Philip Seymour Hoffman left her and their 3 kids, 15 years together. Thankfully for her, they co-owned the $4.4 million West Village Co-op in New York, where she's raising the kids, so there's no risk of, being forced out of their home there. But what about the rest of it? There wasn't a lot of estate planning, and
sure.
No matter how wealthy people get, they tend to gloss over this important thing, not realizing that the odds are 100% that we will die.
Yeah, and Mike, I guess my question is, Will she? Is it going to go to probate or testate? Is that the big issue here? Or?
Well, I don't know if he had a trust or not. My hunch is it will probate. You know, he cut a lot of relationships short when he was found dead. He does have his 2 living parents, so they're biologically next of kin. And then there's his 3 kids. They don't have to worry about any claim. It's clear that those are his children. But what about his common law wife?
Well, I mean, is that's interesting. What happens? What is the legal issue there? If she is the mother of his children, is there some sort of precedent saying that she would get some sort of money out of that?
I think it's going to be in the courts, and that's the problem with the way this was set up. His parents are still alive, as I mentioned. They're probably more than willing to make sure that Mimi O'Donnell and the kids share in the financial success. You would hope. Yeah. And the money is all self-made, as it is with most actors, celebrities like him, who sort of came out of nowhere. And but he didn't do any planning. He wasn't interested in planning. He was waiting for that day of the week with a Y in it.
Yeah, right. I'm surprised that his money managers, and I know back in the old days, and I say old days like 70s and 60s. Well, I mean, there was a lot of accounting problems with people handling money in Hollywood. The actors are more sophisticated about that stuff now, as are their counsel. I'm just surprised someone didn't say, "Look, there's a lot of dough." Their business managers say, "You got to start protecting this." I mean, that's almost. I'm thinking. That's almost a ball drop by the business manager, is it not?
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be plenty of finger pointing, but the bottom line is it was really the actor's responsibility, and Philip Seymour Hoffman was dealing with his own problems, obviously, and he was very, very committed to his craft, which he did exceptionally well. But in terms of managing his own financial affairs, apparently, he just didn't get around to handling the details there. And now he's got 3 kids, his common law wife, and his two parents who have to sort it out. Yeah,
and he was also, unfortunately committed to his drug use. But let me ask you this, more importantly. I just want to know about this cockroach investing program, which we like to call here in San Diego La Cucaracha de Dinero.
Come on, go ahead, spill the beans.
Okay, I got this from our buddy Brett Ahrens, who is with Market Watch. He's also with the Wall Street Journal periodically. He happened, by happenstance, to find an old piece by a guy from SoGen named Dylan Grice called How to Invest Like a Cockroach. And, cockroaches have been around 350 million years, which means they have so far survived 7,000 times longer than the human race.
I'll have what they're having.
And
it looks good.
Dinosaurs. They survived 3 of the 5 mass extinctions that have swept the planet.
Yeah.
Each of which wiped out 3/4 of the other species. They can go without air for 45 minutes. They can survive submerged underwater for half an hour. They survive freezing temperatures, and they withstand 15 times more radiation than humans. So cockroaches don't know how to make a nuclear bomb, but they can survive a nuclear blast. So he came up with the cockroach portfolio that would survive anything.
Well, see, okay, so I'll tell you what we're going to do. What I want to do is the cockroach investing plan. What I want to do, Gabe, is let's post that up at American. Are you allowed to post that at American Money Manager?
I think so. I have to look in.
We'll post it at BigBizShow.com. The investment portfolio that would survive a nuclear blast, much like a cockroach. So, if A plus B equals C, then you can invest like a cockroach. Thank you, Gabriel. Gabriel Wisdom, American Money Management. AmericanMoneyManagement.com, GabrielWisdom.com, and his book, Wisdom on Value Investing.